Of the show today. The topic is President Obama's energy policy, and we're fortunate again to have with us the holder of the Chair of Excellence at Tennessee State University, the Massey Chair of Excellence, Dr. LSharpe. And of course, Dr. Sharpe, let's continue our conversation that you were talking about, some of your energy experiences. Let's allow you to do that.
Be glad to do that. Just wanted to say that, first of all, when I was working on my PhD degree at the University of Illinois, I had a summer internship at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And matter of fact, that was my first involvement in the energy field. Even though my PhD degree was in that area, this job was a little bit different. As you may know, the Department of Energy does a lot of energy work already. And one of the things that's required is that security is another issue that they deal with. And so I was involved in an area where we were looking at underground nuclear explosions. And I was the first one to devise a model to look at two-dimensional analysis of a underground explosion. And the key thing about this is that anytime they would do a test out in the desert, you had to go to Las Vegas and present to this panel the data and information to show that there was no leakage into the Earth's atmosphere. And so we did that, and so that was an exciting time for me. So I enjoyed that.
And a great learning experience, I would also imagine.
Yeah.
Now, go on.
So getting into the President Obama's plan, first thing I want to do, though, is sort of share with you a statement that he made about energy. And he said on March 19, 2009, and I quote, "So we have a choice to make. We can remain one of the world's leading importers of foreign oil, or we can make the investments that would allow us to become the world's leading exporter of renewable energy. We can let climate change continue to go unchecked, or we can help stop it. We can let the jobs of tomorrow be created abroad, or we can create the jobs right here in America and lay the foundation for lasting prosperity." So all of that is the foundation of the key issues that's part of his plan. And actually, if you think about it, there are four key components of the Obama energy plan. And I want to share those with you. And I just want to say, first of all, that as part of this plan, almost all this information is laid out on the website, the White House website. So you may want to go to that if you want specific information. But as part of the Obama energy plan, there are four key things that they talk about. They talk about investing in alternative and renewable energy. They want to end our addiction to what they call addiction to foreign oil, address the global climate crisis, and create millions of jobs for the folks in this country. So those are the key things. And one thing I do want to say about this plan, though, is that a lot of people get a little bit confused to some extent about what is renewable energy, what is alternative energy. And renewable, first of all, let me just say alternative. Alternative is just what it says, an alternate to something else. So when I was growing up on the farm, we used wood. And so we eventually got to the point that our alternative was coal. And so even today, we're still talking about one form of energy and alternate it with something else. So that's all alternative energy is all about. And so they talk about biofuels, and in this case, biofuels could be wood or municipal waste or whatever. And the thing about biofuels, though, is that people think that we could take biofuels and replace biofuels with the energy that we use in our vehicle for our cars and all that. That's impossible, really, because if you were to harvest all the grains that we have, that we produce in this country, it would only produce about 16% of fuel needed for our cars. So
that's
you got an idea
alternative,
of what we can do. It's an alternative now, but it cannot be replaced totally. And the other thing that I want to talk about that relates to alternative energy is that we got fossil fuels, and that's alternative energy. We got nuclear energy. Now, nuclear is something that a lot of people don't want to get involved in because in most cases they will tell you, I don't want it in my backyard. I served on the Hazard Waste Commission for the state of North Carolina, and we were trying to site a hazard waste facility, and the people were all against it. They just did not want it. And so you have to be put in a position that they feel comfortable and safe around all the forms of energy that we're talking about producing. So the question becomes, why not put it in an isolated area, way out in the middle of no place, in the desert. But you got to think about it this way. If you start talking about nuclear energy, you need water as a resource to cool the towers and the like. So you just can't throw it any place. There are some other things that you got to consider. And so if you think about it, most of the people live in areas where there are rivers and a lot of water. And so that's where the people are. And so that's one of the problems we're having with our nuclear energy, and one of those options as an alternative source. And then we talk about renewable energy. So what is renewable? And so really you're talking about any natural source of energy. So we're talking about the sun, solar, we're talking about the wind, we talk about the ocean currents, and we even talk about what they call hydrothermal energy. So all those are the different forms of energy that President Obama is talking about as part of his alternative or renewable energy program.
Very good. And of course, all of those are very, very important in terms of trying to deal with this issue of unemployment and all those other issues.
Yes.
Why don't you go and continue on?
Yeah, what I want to do though is that there are some key elements of the plan itself, and what I want to do is give you some facts and figures that relate to that. And so they talk about investing $150 billion in the next 10 years to build a clean energy future. They talk about ensuring that 10% of the U.S. electricity comes from renewable sources, the renewable sources we just talked about, by 2012, and 25% by 2025. They talk about implementing an economy-wide cap and trade program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050. Now, most people don't know what cap and trade is. Actually, what they're talking about is putting a cap on the total amount of emissions that come from a source. And so whatever that cap is, people are required to meet that. Now, if your company meets that cap, and let's just say that the cap is at so many million pounds or whatever, and your company meets that, and so that means then that you could actually sell the difference between what you have and what they need to get to that level as well. So the key thing is making sure that everyone has met that criteria.
And of course, Dr. Sharpe, we're getting ready for our second commercial break, but this is exactly what we wanted to get from you, that kind of information. And we're going to come back with this third segment shortly after this very short commercial break. Fantastic. And then we'll allow you to continue that. But that's essentially what we wanted to do, and I'm sure that the people are going to be informed more so. We'll be back with you following this very, very short commercial break.